What is going on, YouTube people? Get ready to walk out the door to head to the Ship Shawana show, but we got a little bit of eBay news to talk about. Their eBay Open is going on this week, and they have announced some enhanced slash new seller tools for everybody. So I figured we go ahead and dive in and take a quick peek at them before I head out the door. So, what is going on over in eBay land? We're over here at Sports Collectors Daily. They had one of the better summaries laying everything out. First, offers in messages. This is just a nice little quality of life improvement. Now, when you're going back and forth with someone in the little eBay chat thing, you will be able to just fire in an offer right there. I know that this happens a lot where you're negotiating back and forth with someone and you're like, oh, okay, wait, are you sending the offer? Am I replying to your previous offer? What are we doing here? And now you will just be able to fire it into the message. It'll come across in the chat that you're having with the person, and then they will be able to accept, make a counter, whatever, right from there. So nothing earth-shattering there, but a nice quality of life improvement. Now, one of the bigger ones, they are going to announce automated feedback. So when a buyer receives an item, assuming that it was shipped with eBay tracking and that it arrived and all that stuff, it is automatically going to post positive feedback for that item. I know myself personally, I am very bad about going back and leaving feedback, as is most people. I think eBay is using this as a way to increase seller feedback numbers to make it look, I guess, more accurate, because I think 99.9% of transactions probably go down without a hitch, and probably only 30% of those actually get feedback on those items sold. So people's numbers are underrepresented in that category. You could still go in and leave negative or neutral feedback if something went sideways. They give the details here on when it would kick in. Will automatically leave feedback for sellers who deliver on time with no reported issues in the case where the buyers do not provide feedback. eBay reports that only 1 in 3 buyers currently leave feedback. And like I said, I am terrible at going back in and leaving feedback on items. I even get the reminders from them, and I am bad about it. I am just not great at it. So, and like I said, most of my transactions go by fine. If I just remembered, I would go in and leave positive feedback for a person. I'm just terrible at it. So I don't really have a huge problem with this. I guess maybe, I'm sure people have problems with everything. I'm sure someone will have an issue with this. Now, this is the big one. I saved the big one for last. They are changing how items not received work. So I'm going to read the direct quote here. Starting in October, eBay will introduce a new improvement to enhance trust and friction for these premature item not received claims. So what they're addressing here is when a buyer marks something as item not received yet, and it just hasn't arrived. I've had this happen maybe once or twice, but I know I see people complaining about it on social, where you ship an item, it's on its way, and for whatever reason, USPS decided to ship it from one side of the country to the other, or maybe it got hung up. I've had some take. I actually had one recently. The buyer didn't say anything. I shipped it. It went to California for eBay AG. For whatever reason, I don't know if it got put in the wrong bin or what. On its way to California, it got to Phoenix or something. Got sent back to Akron, Ohio. So I don't know if it just didn't get off the plane, what the deal was. Went all the way back to Akron, then went all the way back to California, or went back to Phoenix again, ended up in California, went through AG, and then eventually shipped. I can tell you right now that package ran about a week late from the estimated delivery date. It absolutely did. It was at AG for a while. It got stuck going back and forth across the country. And technically, that buyer could have easily opened the item not received case because it did not arrive by the estimated deadline that eBay puts in there. So under this, if that happened and the item eventually shows up, eBay is going to pay out the seller. So in the past, if that happened and the item never arrived, you would have to issue the refund, and then that would be it. And then sometime after the fact, you might see that the package got delivered if you were paying attention, and then be like, what the hell? The person got the item and they got their money back, and now here you are left holding the bag. You have no item and no money. With this new program, now once they see that that is delivered, I believe it's just going to automatically pay you back out through eBay seller protection. So a really, really nice change there. That one is pretty nice. One I don't care about as much, they're adding in like AI messages where you could use like default AI messages to respond back to people about questions. I guess maybe for some people this is a huge deal. I don't sell enough on eBay to really dive into this. I sell maybe, I don't know, 30, 40 items a year, maybe 50 items a year on eBay. I mostly buy on eBay. I don't sell a ton on eBay. So to me, it's not that big of a deal for me to fire off a quick response to a question. I could see if you had, like, you're a consigner or you just have a ton of stuff. Maybe you have a large eBay store that you're churning through, that something like that could be a little bit helpful to save you a little bit of time. So not going to impact my life at all. And then the final thing is, which they don't go into details on this, but there is some new tools and AI powered stuff for tracking your costs, inventory management, and things like that. Once again, APIs and things along those lines to help sellers that have larger inventories out there than your average person. So those are the big things out of eBay. I was hoping to see a little bit more. I have two major gripes. Well, one major gripe and one thing that I would like to see improve. The major gripe is the way that they restrict you on eBay spendable funds. There is some instances where you should be able to use those things and you can't. Like I said, I don't sell a ton on eBay. So when I do, I usually just kind of, and this is probably my own fault, I should just pull the money off there, and I can. It's not that big of a deal. But usually I just use the leave the money in my eBay spendable fund. So it just sits on my eBay account. And when something pops up that I want, I now have the money to just go buy it. And it just comes out of my fake money stash of eBay spendable funds. If there's a larger purchase that I'm trying to finance off eBay, I'll transfer the money over. But 9 times out of 10, I just kind of let it sit there. And I'm not talking about huge amounts. I think I have like $1,500 in my eBay spendable funds. It's not crazy. But there's just been instances where you're going back and forth in certain offer situations and it doesn't give you the option to use eBay spendable funds. If you don't have enough to cover the full amount, it gets a little weird sometimes. There's just some instances where it's like, wait, why can't I use eBay spendable funds here? This doesn't make any sense. That part is frustrating. I wish they would figure that out. The other thing that I would like to see some tweaks on is the auto pay stuff. I listen, don't get me wrong. I've been begging for auto pay forever. I think it actually has helped quite a bit. I feel like I hear way less, and once again, feel free to sound off in the comments below if I'm imagining this, but it feels like I hear way less about non-payments. It's still happening, don't get me wrong, but I feel like I don't hear about it as much as I used to. And maybe I'm just living in a bubble. I don't know. But I would like to see some changes around how that processes. It seems like in some cases it processes immediately. In some cases it gives them a week and then it's going to auto pay them. I just feel like some of that stuff could be tightened up a little bit better, and it feels a little all over the place depending on the situation. I know you could turn it on for like best offer, buy it now. I wish it was an option on auctions. I understand why some sellers wouldn't want that. If you're like an MC Sports Cards where you're selling like 1,000 listings at a time and people are buying multiple things from you, you might not want that on. But me, as someone that's just selling one item at auction at a given time, give me the choice to turn that on. Let me flip that switch on auctions, because I know I only have one item for sale. They're not going to be, they give you the reason of, the seller is going to peruse your other wares to see if there's something else that they may want. Spoiler alert, I don't have any other listings, so there's nothing for them to go peruse. Just let me click on the auto pay button on auctions. You let me do it for bins/buy it nows. So I'd like to see some of that stuff tightened up. I think that could be better. Generally speaking, eBay just always seems very slow to move on anything. It seems like they eventually get there, but it takes them forever, and there's all sorts of tweaks about it. I would just like them to see them move a little bit quicker on some of this stuff. No mentions of the extended bidding at all. I haven't seen a ton of people talking about that. I think it's very, very limited. I know Baubles and Ball Cards got in an auction that it was turned on for. So it seems like that is extremely limited for the people that are seeing it or the items that it's getting applied to. So we'll have to see how that trickles out. Have you ran into that at all? I have not personally, and I have bid on quite a few cards over the last month or so since that news came out. But I haven't seen that pop up for me. Has anyone else ran into that yet? The extended bidding thing that they were talking about a few weeks back. That's what we got coming out of the eBay Open. Like I said, nothing super crazy in there. The item not received one is definitely the biggest one. And that is a nice little win for the sellers in a world where it seems like the buyers get most of the good stuff on eBay. That's all I got. I got to get on the road. Catch you boys and girls on the next one. Peace.